Okay. So, yeah, sure. I would like to now call the April 22nd. Oh my gosh. Let's try it again. Nope, very echo. Coming from above. Do you want to do that?
Is it still the same, basically?
Yeah, I think so. He asked if you wanted to.
Is this actually?
Oh, no, here,
No, it's
you've
quite-
done it.
Quite
She's
different,
done it,
actually.
yeah. Here, I'll let you do that. Sure. Okay. Testing. Is that better? Yeah, I think so. Can you all hear me? Perfect, okay. That was bizarre. Okay, so I'd like to now call the April 22nd, 2025 Longmont City Council regular session to order. The live stream of this meeting can be viewed at the city's YouTube channel and the longmontpublicmedia.org/watch or Comcast channels 8 and 880. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Peck, Councilmember Christ,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring,
Here.
Councilmember McCoy, Councilmember Popkin,
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Here?
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So, in accordance with the council's rules of procedure, the following rules are for providing public comment are as followed. Only Longmont residents and employees of the city of Longmont may speak at first call during public invited to be heard. You must provide your address on the sign-up sheet before the meeting, or I will not call your name. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone may speak on second reading or public hearing item. You are asked to add your name to the speaker list for any specific item before the meeting. Anyone may speak during final call, public invited to be heard. And members of the audience shall refrain from disruptive, vulgar, or abusive language, applause, heckling, or other actions that interfere with the orderly function of the council. And you know what? It looks like we failed to say the pledge. Wasn't on here. Well, let's start with the pledge. Okay. Oh, I see where it's at now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I was really only reading what was in blue. So, thank you for that. Okay. So can I please have a motion to approve our April 8th, 2025 regular session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So is it up? Okay. So it has been moved. So the minutes have been moved by Councilmember Christ and seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. And then, is there any discussion? Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. Okay. And that passes unanimously with Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy absent. Okay, and then Clerk, do we have any agenda revisions?
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you. And then are there any motions from council for future agenda items? So, Councilmember Rodriguez and, come on. There we go. I keep pushing it. Do you see that? Yeah. Let me try that.
Okay,
There we go. Okay.
All right, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So tonight, based on some conversations I've had regarding development within the city, I would like to move to direct staff to bring back to the city council a study session item based on our development height limits. And this is for two reasons I'm bringing this motion. The first reason is that economically speaking, there's a difference in height limits between, say, 4 stories and 7 stories on economic feasibility of a project. And so if we'd like to see economic feasibility in a project and the utilization of some of our incentives, such as an extra story for affordable housing, we need to make it economically feasible for the developer. And the construction process between just, say, wood built versus steel built is an economic feasibility study for different height levels. As well as the second point, which I think that more of the community might appreciate, is that we've seen a lot of multifamily apartment complexes coming into close adjacency to single-family residence subdivisions. And if we can look at maybe by increasing our height limits, focusing those multifamily developments into more dense corridors, we might be able to avoid some of the fights that we've been having between the development community, the city council, and the residents of the city of Longmont. So that is why I am suggesting that we have at a study session the city staff to present to us some concepts for increasing our height limits in development in certain zoning districts that would not be, okay. It got seconded, so.
Okay, yes, okay. Are there any discussions on this? So, do you have the language, or do you need it repeated so just on a study session, did you get it? So, yeah, it looks like it's good. So, the motion to direct staff to bring a study session on some concepts, for increasing development height limits was brought forth by Councilmember Rodriguez and seconded by Councilmember Yarborough. Do you have okay. Go ahead. Yes, whoops. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Rodriguez, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention here and suggesting this. Just a couple clarifying questions. Are we able to go back and forth for this, or can't? No. Anyway, I'll put a couple
just
questions
put
there
up
that I'd
questions
appreciate
and then
you
let 'em respond,
on. One, when you say concepts for increasing, are you thinking zoning or code changes? Are you thinking and land use code versus building code? Are there, like, what are you thinking of for concepts there? And then secondly, I think I heard this in kind of your description, but I'm not seeing it in the specific motion language here. So I just wanted to clarify. It sounds like you're aiming for really thinking about this and understanding more of our options within specific areas of the city, that this wouldn't be like a blanket across the board adoption that we'd be considering. And so I was hoping you could speak a little bit more towards that, because I am supportive, I think, of the concept of what you're trying to get at here in areas where I think where it makes sense within our city. So if you could just speak to those two, that would be appreciated.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So when I talk about what the staff bring back to us conceptually, I'm talking about the height limits and having some sort of concept of. Obviously, right now we're constrained to 4, unless with certain circumstances 5. So to see, is it go to 7? Do we need to go to 10 to make things feasible to economically pencil out? And that's what I mean for the study that needs to come back to us so we can look at. As far as change, I do not anticipate having any changes in the zoning, but actually being specific about which zoning districts, such as the commercial business district, it seems to make sense there. If we're trying to protect adjacency to single-family residences, we're not looking at mixed neighborhood, for instance, which would be what people call medium density, right? So we're looking at places that really should be able to accommodate a higher density and to be sensitive to those kinds of considerations. So I'm not suggesting any zoning changes, just appropriate zonings to allow for higher densities and what that would look like, so we can make an informed decision on whether we would like to change it or not change it at all. Thank you.
That makes sense. Thank you. Are we ready to vote? Let's go ahead. Okay, and that passes 4-1 with Councilmember Chris opposing and Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy absent. Okay, and actually I have a couple of motions. So one is on behalf of the mayor. So she has asked that I bring this forward. And this one is to add to our discussion as we go through the ordinance on first reading for the limits, the distance for housing residents of SVP and people with felony sexual assault charges to have those distance requirements. But in addition to that, with following the same criteria that we're following for distance requirements, also limit the number of people to 3. So can I have okay. Can I have okay. And so Councilmember Yarborough has seconded that, and now we can have discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would prefer that we schedule an executive session concerning this. I'm pretty sure that there could be some legal ramifications to the limitation of the unrelated residents in a single family home. Because I do not believe that we have precedent. So I would prefer that we have an executive session before we move forward with that.
Okay, so I'm going to kick this to our city attorney. Would you be needing to provide us with legal? So, I mean, in the meeting I had with you all with staff, letting you know that I would be bringing this forward, I didn't really hear that there was concern that you needed to give us some legal counsel.
Mayor and Council, Eugene May, City Attorney. There's certainly legal issues
With
all
any.
over this topic. We could schedule an executive session on the 6th is when we're bringing back first reading. Is that
The
right?
6th, is that right? It
Do we
is
have
the
any
6th, isn't it?
pre-session? We've got
Yeah, we do. We have the junior,
a delegation.
the Japanese.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So maybe we could take the items separately. I can think a little bit more if it could be addressed in a confidential email. I believe we have no council meeting next week,
we do not.
right?
So,
And then the Sister Cities Chino delegation is here on the 6th.
okay, and is that running from 6 to 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I would just assume vote and see where it lies, but if there's anybody who feels strongly to have an executive session, is it going to be required? I didn't hear a concern when we spoke, and I let you know that I would be bringing this forward.
Mayor and Council, my office previously had an email to City Council on this
Yeah.
topic. I don't really want to discuss it further than that.
Got it.
in
Yeah, I
public.
understand. Okay. I would just assume vote for it. Put a vote out on the table now. But yeah, I'm gonna allow you to weigh in.
Reason that she didn't want to talk about it without a council member.
So,
And she wants us to vote on this without 2 council members.
well, I told her I'd bring it forward. So, okay, go ahead, Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, I think if I heard your motion correctly, there were 2 parts to it, right? No,
No,
is
I
it
think
just
it was
the
just
number of?
limiting the
It's just the number of residents?
that would follow the same criteria as the distance. So as far as which type of sexual offenders we're referencing.
Well, so that sounds like 2 questions. Who is
No, it's all gonna fall under the same ordinance.
Okay,
I
so-
think that's why the mayor asked if I bring it forward tonight.
So your
So
motion.
it's all discussed at the same time.
So your motion tonight is to direct, on behalf of the mayor,
add.
is to add consideration of
Limiting the number of.
limiting the number of
Yes.
unrelated residents in a single residence
That are convicted, yes,
who are
Yes.
registered sex offenders.
registered sex offenders.
Correct. Okay. Thank you for clarifying
Okay.
that. Yeah, I'll think.
I know, okay, so you know what? I will let the mayor know, and I think we'll just ask to bring it forward in an executive session. Because I do want to make sure that we have people with clarity, that we do get the votes to add this on. Okay? So, okay. So to add this to an executive session? Just bring it up now? Or add to an executive session? So, Councilmember Yarborough, since you seconded, I would like to hear from you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think that since legal counsel had said that it probably will be advisable for us to discuss this during executive session, I think that's probably the way we should go.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best way for us to do that.
Okay. So, yeah, so the next one on my, Popkin?
We can do it at 5. If council can meet at 5 on May 6th, we can do the executive session at 5.
Okay.
And then if council wanted to direct, we could do both, have it ready and do the executive session, and then you could pull it or not.
Okay. So I think for me, the urgency, when I was speaking with the mayor, was that we want to address this immediately. So, and I think we've had concerned residents who've articulated over and over again, and we need to address this. So I'm worried. I don't want to get to a state where we're just kind of kicking it down the road. I'll make arrangements to be here at 5, and we'll have an executive session to add that on, and then from there, I would like to be able to discuss that evening to add that in. So that's my 2 cents. So now, I had already selected you. Go ahead, Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So the motion, if I understand that the motion now is to direct staff to bring back basically an item to limit the number of residents in sex offender homes. We're not passing that policy tonight.
We're not passing the policy
Correct.
tonight.
So this is a direction
No,
there.
and that is, and then that we would also have an executive session
Correct.
at 5 o'clock
I-
prior to.
I would support that. I'd be in favor of that. It'll allow us to, and I would support it with the executive session piece of that added on. But I would support it either way. I
Okay.
think it allows us to expeditiously decide on this. And I like the suggestion of considering these topics together as a package.
Yeah,
So, thank you.
that was the goal. Okay, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm more than happy for this to be conducted via confidential emails such as executive sessions, and legal advice is given when we do not have executive sessions, because I cannot make a 5 o'clock executive session. Trying to get here from Denver when I get off at 4:30,
Yeah.
there's no way I can get here at 5. It's just impossible. So, to the city attorney's premise of using email, I'm happy
Okay.
to get the weight of the city attorney's office to us, because I'm making this, I guess, objection, if you will, not really objection to the motion, but objection to the motion in the sense that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the city of Larchmont, and that includes whether we decide to take on lawsuits, right? Because that costs taxpayer dollars, and generally a lot of taxpayer dollars. And so I want to be darn sure that we're ready to go to war if we're going to go to war. Okay? And so I don't think that making the motion first and then asking if this is legally sound later is the smart move for a city council to do. And that's why, if they can convey to me in emails that they're comfortable with this direction at the city attorney's office, I will be happy to go forward with it come May 6th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So are we ready to vote? Okay, let's go ahead and vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
could you clarify your motion?
Yes, so it was to direct staff to include in the ordinance a limit of number of registered sex offenders to 3 with a discussion. So rather than an executive session, I guess some kind of confidential email correspondence with legal advice. And I don't know if that has to be included in the motion, but I think we would like, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm like waiting for you. Yeah, perfect. Okay, and that passes unanimously with those of us present, with Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy absent.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I can come in for all of you, if, based on the email and information, if there's a need for one, I've asked to see if we could flip, based on Councilmember Rodriguez's time, flip the sister cities to 5,
Okay,
and then potentially an executive session at 6. So we have some time to figure that out, but I'll let you all know
that would,
as soon
okay,
as we can figure something out.
okay. Okay, thank you, that's helpful. And I probably should have made the second motion first, because it's not as heavy. But we should have started light. But anyways, so this is a motion to tap in, and in last year's discussion, well, let me go over this. I would like to use up to $10,000 of our council contingency funds to support this year's Juneteenth. It was my understanding last year when we made the motion, but I guess in looking at our past correspondence, the city clerk, or not, the secretary did not believe that Erica didn't believe that we had codified it in ongoing funds. I thought we did. I thought we did. So, I know you, so we didn't. So I would like to use up to $10,000 of council contingency funds to support Juneteenth this year, with the expectation that it go on in perpetuity, but we carve out that money. I think it meets a lot of our goals and objectives around, bringing in different cultures and cultural activities and community, so.
Second.
I think they did it in budget.
Oh, yeah. No, board and commission appreciation.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we got plenty of money.
Okay, but not right now. To use boards and commissions funding?
No.
Oh, the
thing they were
appreciation.
supposed to
Oh,
do.
yes. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
But we
Well, we don't have a budget. We don't know how much it'll cost.
I don't know how much it'll cost. I forgot to. So no, this was off topic. So did you get? We were waiting on
No.
you.
No, oh,
I thought you
sorry.
were talking
So, no.
to Sandy.
So we were. So no, it wasn't in for multiple years in that motion.
Yes.
So if you did this would then apply to the direction to the budget process.
Yes.
So then when we go into the budget process, that would be
Perfect.
something that we include as a council request for ongoing funding.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Any discussion on the matter? Nope. Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that passes unanimously with those of us present, with Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy absent. And are there any other agenda? So go ahead, can you, one of you, because I don't have, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
For those of you who are here tonight, we're not like this every Tuesday night. Just saying, okay? Just have grace with us tonight. I would like to, I don't know how much it would cost for us to put together and support those, an appreciation activity for our boards and commissions. Those who serve on our boards and commissions, we as council would like to show our appreciation and support that monetarily, but we do not have we don't know how much it normally is, so.
Consistent with last year, I don't even.
Yeah, whatever was consistent with last year's budget for that.
Council contingency.
Were you making a motion or what, or an
We're
inquiry?
fact finding too.
Okay,
All of the above.
all of the above, okay.
So do you want us to just direct staff to look at potential available funds to do something for appreciation for boards and commissions?
Council contingency.
And using council contingency
Okay.
funds for that.
Okay, and I'll second that. That is a motion.
We have money. This is why I was like, I think we have money for it.
Oh, okay. We got an
So-
email
Yeah, we got
asking if we would support,
council contingency.
yeah, with that.
Would you send me the email?
Yes,
We do
please.
have some money in the city clerk's office budget that has been used to be able to do the reception for the boards and commissions. Is that what you mean?
No, they
Or
want
you
to.
mean something
Yeah,
else?
was it the
Something in
reception?
addition.
No, no,
It
no,
was the reception.
It was like gift cards or something.
Yeah, we did some gift cards and we
Yeah.
did a reception
Yeah.
out of the clerk's budget last
Oh,
year.
okay.
But yeah, why don't you send me the email?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, strike that then.
Okay.
You found some money.
What?
Thank you.
Yeah, because I was like, what are you talking about? I missed that email. Okay, so city manager, do you have a report?
Count.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to, let's see, I feel like I've missed something. Special reports and presentations. So we are now at the update on the Metropolitan District funding for youth programs in Longmont.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring and members of council. I'm Christina Pacheco, Human Services Director. We had a little over $980,000 that was allocated for youth activities via the Metropolitan Stadium funding grant process. Our Youth Council and Children, Youth and Families team provided a framework for that. And we're here tonight to show video. We put an all call out to all of the agencies that were funded. We had 16 that responded that wanted to give you all an update. The video was produced by Longmont Public Media and had some really interesting programs. So we're gonna go ahead and play that. Oh, we need the volume up. Volume up?
Wait, let me see something.
It's all the way,
Where's the volume?
right click, let's see. Right there, it's all,
Speaker there.
it's all the way up, I
Is it
think.
all the
Yep,
way up?
it's all the way up, so. So, thank you, Sandy. Rogelio. We're good?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barb Bolton. I'm the executive director and one of the founders of Crossroads Schools. Crossroads used the Bronco Stadium grant funds to jumpstart adding an additional teacher to our program, which increased our capacity and allowed us to serve even more at-risk youth and help them turn their lives around. Crossroads School only serves students who are not successful in traditional programs. So these are kids who are on track to drop out. We help them rebuild their confidence, their skills, and make a plan for their future. I'm grateful to the City Council for giving us this opportunity and investing in the students of Longmont in this way. And just want to say thank you.
Hi, my name is Mimi Ferry-Lee. I'm a co-founder of Dandelion Arts Collective. With these funds, we were able to provide multiple mediums of art making. So that included creative movement, theater, dance, poetry, visual art. And we were able to, as a mobile and free program, offer these spaces in a lot of different areas. So we supported unhoused moms in the county. We were able to partner with the Longmont Public Library on a series of workshops, as well as provide outdoor classes. We were also able to partner with the local St. Vrain Valley School District. I would just like to express some heartfelt gratitude to the City Council for allowing these funds to be supporting holistic arts and health education. We're extremely grateful to not only strengthen our partnerships with the City of Longmont through the library and Sandstone Ranch, as well as the school district, but additionally build strong relationships with the families in our community.
Hi, my name is Tobias Lopez, and I'm the owner of Breakneck Street. We use the Denver Bronco Grant Fund to be able to provide free dance classes, travel for our students, as well as host the largest breakdancing competition here in Longmont, Colorado. We'd like to thank the Longmont City Council for the opportunity for us to share the art form of breaking and hip-hop culture, as well as be able to provide the opportunity for our students to experience dance contests outside of the state as well as in the state, which are extremely beneficial to the development of our youth program.
My name is McKenna Wood. I am the Development Manager for Voices for Children, CASA of Boulder County. In the last year, VFC served 148 children living in the city of Longmont. This represents 57% of the children served by the organization. These children were able to receive court-appointed special advocacy for health, education, and emotional needs as they move through the dependency and neglect court. Yes, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to the City Council for enabling us to have these funds. We're so grateful for their partnership as we work to serve children who've experienced abuse and neglect. Together, we hope to change a child's story.
My name is Nick Chase. I'm Artistic Director of Production and Education at Local Theater Company. Our team at Local Theater Company used the funds to operate our Local Rights program, which is a standards-based playwriting and literacy program at Longs Peak Middle School right here in Longmont. Local Rights fosters self-expression through playwriting. Following the conclusion of students writing plays, we then stage them with professional actors and directors, which gives an opportunity to show the student how much we value their thoughts and their feelings. Thank you to the City Council for recognizing the great value of arts education and student self-expression.
My name is Amanda Morris. I'm the Executive Director of Restart Studio, a nonprofit art therapy program here in Longmont. Prior to receiving these funds, we were solely serving youth in the criminal justice system, and these funds allowed us to expand our art therapy services to all youth in the community that could benefit from support. So with these funds, we were able to launch a free weekly art therapy group to all youth in the community. A lot of the youth that participated in our groups otherwise wouldn't have had access to mental health support, and so providing this free weekly drop-in space, it gave youth the opportunity for a safe healing space that they could connect, make art, and work through any challenges that they have with the support of their peers and a therapist. Thank you, City Council, for investing in the mental health and the well-being of Longmont's youth, and thank you for believing in the power of art therapy to transform lives.
Hey, my name is Shalene Onyango. I'm the Executive Director of Bright Collaborative, formerly known as Longmont Community Justice Partnership, or LCJP. Bright Collaborative is a restorative justice organization that provides restorative services on a spectrum of proactive to reactive, from prevention to intervention, and a lot of the work that we do is in collaboration with the city's Rewind program to keep youth out of the punitive criminal justice system. We use these funds to help support our restorative intervention called Your Story, Your Power, which we co-facilitate with an organization in Denver. And this intervention allows youth to come in and explore accountability, healthy decision-making, risk-taking in a setting with other youth where they don't have to only use words to express that accountability and to express what happened to them. It allows them to use interactive games and theater and role play to be able to get in touch with what was happening for them that led them to this bad decision that they made. Yeah, thank you, City Council. Thank you to the City of Longmont. This is a really challenging time to be a nonprofit in our community, and our individual donors and foundations are being asked to support a lot of the work that all of the nonprofits in our community are doing, and they're spread very thin. And so the fact that we got the benefit of some increased funding from the city to help support this work helps bolster and create sustainability, but it also alleviates some of the burden that the individuals in our community are carrying to help support all the great nonprofits that are working in Longmont.
My name is Vanessa Montano. I'm the Major Gifts Officer at Community Food Share. Community Food Share used the Broncos Stadium grant funds to provide access to healthy, nutritious food for over 750 children in Longmont through our mobile pantry program. The funds made a direct impact on Longmont's youth by providing nutritious food like produce, dairy, and high protein meals that help them gain energy to learn, grow, and thrive. Thank you, Longmont City Council.
My name is Josh Campbell, and I'm a board member with the Longmont Youth Symphony. We use the Broncos Stadium grant funds to provide scholarships to some of the kids in our org who might have not been able to participate otherwise, as well as bringing in expert musicians from the community to help instruct and mentor the kids on their instruments. We're really proud of our scholarship program. There are a lot of really talented kids in the community who would otherwise be unable to participate, who can come in and we just waive all of their tuition so they can share their talents with us. Thank you, definitely first and foremost. Lived in Longmont for 15 years. I'm proud to call this my home, my family's home, and I love being able to participate in this great organization with the backing of the city. So thank you for everything.
I'm Erin Angel, and I'm a senior instructor at Cottonwood Institute. We've been working with Casa de la Esperanza for a long time, connecting the youth to the outdoors and taking them camping and fishing and things like that. This year, we decided to make a program where the youth taught their little brothers and sisters and their parents how to run a camping trip themselves. And so now the families are prepared to go camping on their own and use the gear library that we provided for them. Thank you, City Council, for choosing us as one of the organizations to receive these funds. We had a really good time, and so did the students.
Hi, my name is Tim Villard. I am the farm manager on the Food Project Farm. I work for Growing Gardens. Growing Gardens use the Bronco Stadium grant funds to include more youth on our farms. We have our high school Cultiva program where kids join us all through summer break to learn about leadership, grow food on the farm, donate that to families in Longmont who are lower income. We included over 600 youth from Timberline Elementary School who came out and learned on the farm as well. At Growing Gardens, we are super grateful for the support of City Council and these funds. We have increased access to food in Longmont, increased education opportunities, and we absolutely hope you all will support us in the future again.
Hello, I am honored to be here. My name is Barbara Ulrich, and I am the director of Calvary Open Door, ESL, and HSC, which stands for High School Equivalency. And standing next to me is...
Hi, so my name is Wendy, and I am one of the graduates from Open Door.
We use the funds for two primary expenses. The first one was our high-set classes, which allow students to get their diploma from Colorado Department of Education. And we used to only be able to allow 4 classes. Now we're able to offer 10 to 15 classes. The second area was our testing center. And our testing center, now we can have an enrollment of 50 tests being taken by the testing center. One of the things that the grant allows us to do is once our students graduate, we're able to help them find scholarships to move on to the next step. And standing next to me, Wendy is one of our graduates, and we helped her get a scholarship at Front Range. And so I'm just thankful for this grant to enable us to have this program that's much needed and to help the young people of our community take the next step that they need to reach their goals.
I'm also thankful because it did open many doors for me to figure out what I want to do with my life. So yeah.
My name is Sherry Burkhardt. I am the Executive Director for Rise Against Suicide. Rise Against Suicide was able to use the Bronco Stadium funds to pay for 50 life-saving therapy sessions for youth of Longmont up to age 19 who screened at risk for suicide. We're in the midst of a youth mental health crisis, and with that, suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 19 in the state of Colorado. These funds allowed Longmont youth to jump over the barriers to care that existed and ultimately saved lives. On behalf of the Longmont youth, their families, and the Rise Against Suicide staff and supporters, I just want to say thank you to the Longmont City Council for supporting Rise Against Suicide and allowing youth to ultimately find hope and healing.
My name is Amanda Giguère, and I'm the Director of Outreach for the Colorado Shakespeare Festival. We recently used Bronco Stadium grant funds to share a Shakespeare and violence prevention program with K-12 schools in Longmont. This is a collaboration between the Colorado Shakespeare Festival and the Center for the Study and Prevention of Violence, and it's part of a larger program that visits schools statewide. But this grant in particular allowed us to visit 13 schools in Longmont, and we shared the program with more than 2,000 Longmont students. This program combines live theater with a violence prevention curriculum, and it's guided by research from the Center for the Study and Prevention of Violence. And we've learned that theater is a really powerful tool in terms of translating research into practice because it engages the imagination, and it invites creativity, and it builds a lot of really important social emotional skills. So I just want to take this moment to thank City Council for selecting the Colorado Shakespeare Festival as one of the recipients of this funding. I myself am a proud resident of Longmont, and I'm a mom to 2 kids who are both in the St. Vrain Valley school system, and they go to school in Longmont. And I am just really proud to be living in a community that recognizes that the arts have value in a young person's education. So thanks for all you do, and take care.
Hi, my name is Michelle Brune. I'm the Executive Director here at the Colorado Therapeutic Riding Center, and we were a grant recipient for the Metropolitan grant funds that came in last year for the sale of the Broncos Stadium, and we are so excited. The funds were used to help support our youth programs here at CTRC, Colorado Therapeutic Riding Center. And some of these funds were used to help care for the horses. We have about 30 horses on site. We are on 40 acres. We have about 15 staff, and we serve roughly between 400 and 500 clients a year here at the Colorado Therapeutic Riding Center. The funds were used to help support children and youth in their healing journeys and efforts with all of the different disabilities that they might have. So some of the ways that we work with some of our kids here at CTRC. You might see some of these different items behind us, some balls, some activities, and of course, the care for the equine partner in the therapy process. Okay, well, we just want to say thank you very much for all of your support for the City Council and everyone involved with the grant-making process for the Metropolitan grants that were awarded last year. Here at the Colorado Therapeutic Riding Center, we are the oldest therapeutic riding center in the state of Colorado, right here in Longmont, and we want to thank you for your support for the funding dedicated to support our children and youth in our equine assisted therapy and therapeutic riding activities and programming. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ivan Jackson, and I'm honoured to introduce myself as the new Executive Director of Blue Sky Bridge. Blue Sky Bridge is a centre dedicated to creating lasting, positive change in the lives of children affected by abuse in Boulder County and beyond. We're excited to celebrate our 30th anniversary in 2025, serving children and families in Boulder County. Our school-based education program helps children learn how to keep their bodies safe while teaching adults the tools needed to prevent, recognise and react responsibly to child sexual abuse. 50% of the children served through this program are enrolled in the St. Vrain Valley School District. We also provide immediate intervention, forensic interviews in partnership with local law enforcement, and family support to children, victims and families. Finally, Blue Sky Bridge provides trauma-focused therapies for children ages 4 to 17 who have participated in a forensic interview with our agency. We have therapy offices conveniently located in both Boulder and downtown Longmont. These trauma therapies are designed to reduce negative emotional and behavioural responses and post-traumatic stress symptoms after a traumatic incident. I would like to say thank you to the Longmont City Council providing us with a proportion of the Bronco Stadium grant funds. This funding has allowed us to continue the important work we do in local schools and for the children and families in the Longmont community. Thank you for your support.
So that concludes our video for tonight. We're going to ask that Channel 8 run this
Okay.
on public access, and then it'll also live on the Children, Youth, and Families website.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was wonderful. I say yeah. So does anyone have any comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Yarborough.
Thanks for that video, Christina. It's nice to know where all the funds went. But I do have a question. Quite a few of those organizations, I know that with Housing and Human Services, they also apply for money as well. I don't know how much each organization received, but will they also be able to, still apply for those funds again? Although because the Metro dollars were different compared to what they need maybe for operation reasons.
Councilmember Yarborough, yes, it was a totally separate funding process. We mirrored kind of how Human Services funding that process with Youth Council really driving that. But yes, they will be eligible to apply for Human Services funding this year.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Oh, and happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.
Oh, yeah. Very good, thank you. Thank you for this. And I know a lot of folks were thanking the city council, but it was really the work of the youth council. I had a chance to sit in on a couple of their meetings where they went through that rubric and they were analyzing those, and they took it very seriously and taking those ideas from the youth summit and incorporating those priorities into the selection of the grants and where that went, and it was amazing.
Thank you for the recognition, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
They did a great job.
They did.
Thank you.
Okay, so up next, we have a proclamation designating May 1st through the 31st, 2025 as Older Americans Month in Longmont, Colorado. So I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I'll invite guests to come forward. So whereas the City of Longmont includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their experience, knowledge, and strength to our community, and whereas during Older Americans Month, let us pause to acknowledge the spirit and experience that older Americans bring to our families and to our community. And whereas older Americans have built our economy, defended our freedom, and helped shape the character of our community, raised families, and dedicated themselves to improving the quality of life for future generations. And whereas many older Americans have worked for decades to support and grow families and nurture their communities, and in retirement may continue to spend time volunteering for those in need, to provide much needed childcare, and to simply be of service whenever they can. And whereas all communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are welcomed, included, and supported. And whereas, let us take time this month to recognize older Americans' contributions and reaffirm our communities to acknowledge and serve the older Americans in Longmont. Now, therefore, I, Susie Hidalgo Faring, Mayor Pro Tem, on behalf of Mayor Joan Peck, by virtue of the authority vested in me and the City Council of the City of Longmont, I do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Older Americans Month in Longmont. And yay, so come forward if you'd like to speak.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. My name is John Higgins. I'm the board chair of the Senior Citizens Advisory Board at the Longmont Senior Center. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak briefly about Older Americans Month. As the proclamation states, let's pause to acknowledge the spirit and experience that older Americans can bring to our families and to our community. Can bring. There's hope and promise in that statement, and there's something that I experience every day that the City of Longmont supports for seniors. When I go to the Senior Center, when I go to Longmont housing facilities to speak, when I go to the various nonprofits that the city already supports that support seniors, I see that nurturing and I see that support. Can there be more? I'm going to save that for my next time I appear before the council in May. But I'd like to take this moment to introduce or ask Karen Roney, President of the Friends of the Senior Center, to come forward. I think most of you know who Karen is. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. So the theme this year for Older Americans Month really focuses on the power of making social connections and the positive impact of these connections on the health and well-being of older adults. It's no secret that the Longmont Senior Center has built its reputation around the importance of creating connections among older adults. For nearly 50 years, the Longmont Senior Center has offered amazing programs, activities, and services that promote dignity, wellness, independence, enjoyment, and a sense of community for older adults in Longmont. We appreciate, this is the appreciation tour, the City of Longmont for its vision in 1976 and its ongoing commitment to our seniors. I also want to recognize the Friends of the Longmont Senior Center, and as John mentioned, I'm the president of that organization this year. It's a separate 501c3 organization, and it was established nearly 45 years ago, so just a few years after the Senior Center was established, to generate additional resources that supplement the city's senior center budget. Because, you know, you can't fund everything, right, that is requested of the city. So the Friends support the Longmont Senior Center in many ways, such as funding facility enhancements, capital purchases, participant scholarships, and a variety of health and wellness, caregiving, technology, and cultural enrichment programs, as well as services that address basic needs when all other resources have been exhausted. For the past 15 years, when we kind of went back on records we had access to, the Friends have invested $1.25 million to expand the Senior Center's capacity to serve the Longmont community. And just recently, the Friends purchased 2 additional vans. They have arrived. I don't know if they've been used yet, but they are here to really help eliminate the wait list for people wanting to participate in the popular day trip activities. And the Friends also funded a recent cultural exchange involving elders from Longmont and the Northern Arapaho tribe to build long-lasting relationships and powerful connections between both communities. So in 2026, the Longmont Senior Center will celebrate its 50th anniversary. We appreciate the Longmont City Council, the City of Longmont staff, and the Friends of the Longmont Senior Center for their unwavering support for making the Longmont Senior Center, we think, one of the best senior centers in the nation. We look forward to building on successful public-private partnership efforts to create an even brighter future and for the health and well-being of Longmont residents. So thank you very much for this proclamation.
Thank you for bringing it forward.
You bet.
And would y'all like a picture?
We would love
Okay.
a photo. Always wanted to do that. So.
We'll look over here. Let's squeeze the shoulders in a little bit. There we go. All right, and 3, 2. One more. 3, 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are now at first call, public invited to be heard. So let me pull up my list. And the first person on our list is Joe Keller. Okay, Melissa Irwin. that it? Okay.
Good
Go ahead,
evening-
yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. My name is Melissa Irwin. I'm at 2094 Winding Drive. I'd like to point out that the house on Winding Drive has grown now to 8 registered sex offenders. It seems to me the goal is to pack this house as full as is allowed by Health and Fire Code, which I believe to be 14 people in 6 bedrooms. I've tried contacting CAR to understand the certification status of this facility, but they have been historically unresponsive. To reiterate, we are all aware that any ordinances being proposed that put into place will not apply to living situations already established. As council, frankly, this should have been done a long time ago to prevent the reactive situation we're in now. We all want to follow the law. We would appreciate some transparency or at least an explanation of the refusal to be transparent. I'm sick of living in a giant game of telephone. Regarding Mabara's Solutions, their claim of being a certified residential recovery facility is in question. Mr. Mabaris has changed his website landing page to begin moving away from the narrative that they specialize in rehabilitating sex offenders to simply folks previously incarcerated. It seems obvious that Mr. Mabaris is choosing those who have felony convictions for sex offenses with a comorbidity of drugs and alcohol to placate CAR and move forward with certification, since nothing exists to certify a facility for sex offense recovery, because that's not a thing. Let's also not forget Mr. Mabara's actions on April 1st. He sat behind a group of us women and made several belittling and aggressive remarks. We simply want to know why it is necessary to set up shop so close to a ton of children. That would be like setting up a recovery facility for alcoholics next to a bar. It's a poor location choice. Not safe for those living there or around the house. We also never heard any further information about their promised open house to introduce themselves to the community. Maybe my invitation was lost in the mail. There seems to be a huge lack of the adults in charge of doing the right thing here, or if they are, we aren't being kept in the loop about it. Every person in this room can agree that people deserve a second chance after they've served their time for their crimes. These men are all on active parole, finishing out their sentences next to a park with direct views of a playground from one of the bedroom windows. Per the Longmont Rental Handbook for tenants and landlords, no more than 5 non-related adults are to reside in the same single-family house. However, with CAR certification, they don't have to abide by those housing laws. Again, this is why I'd like transparency and council's help in understanding if they are truly certified, as Mr. Mabaris has stated in the past, when they weren't. We have learned that a previous home of theirs was shut down by CAR for failing to disclose the true nature of their program, and we'd like to see what has changed since and what recovery programs are in place. The community has a right to this information. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, refrain from clapping. Thank you. So the next one on the list is Malcolm Dean. And he had to leave, okay. Melinda Jordan.
Melinda Jordan, 1110 Twin Peaks Circle, Longmont. This was really a great presentation to see, and another reason why we're proud to live here. I'm super proud of the St. Vrain Valley School District's Innovation Center, and that's what I came to talk about. Their drone pilots performed at the 40th Space Symposium in Colorado Springs the week of April 7th, and I just want you to know about their achievement and speak about our history in Longmont with advanced technology as a hub for business and forward thinkers. The Innovation Center presented a drone show to the attendees and exhibitors at the Colorado Space Symposium. My colleagues were there representing my employer, along with 377 other exhibitors and 12,000 attendees. Our kids put on a jaw-dropping show for them outside the Broadmoor, and the news of it was all over the press and a lot of really great images. The list of sponsors and exhibitors, 377, and attendees spanned the globe. So as you can imagine, included Airbus, Boeing, Blue Halo, Carnegie Mellon, General Dynamics, Hewlett-Packard, Honeybee Robotics, Honeywell Aerospace, Johns Hopkins, L3 Harris, Leidos, Lockheed Martin, NASA, Northrop Grumman, Peregrine Space, Redwire Space, Space Dynamics, and the U.S. Space Command. That's just a couple. The Innovation Center is the product of a future-focused school district in a city that is invested in and supporting education and aeronautics. City of Longmont has an impressive heritage that we should be proud of. In 1957, IBM purchased the land at 119 and 52, and Longmont leadership made sure that that location was considered Longmont. The enormous campus opened in 67 and expanded again in 2008 with its leading-edge Green Data Center. Longmont won the favor of the Federal Aviation Administration, and in 1961, ARTC, the Air Route Traffic Control Center, was opened in our city for the Denver location at 17th and Hoover. It's one of only 22 in the U.S. ARTC employs over 400 people, making it the city's 8th largest employer. The Denver Center here in Longmont handled over 2,022,000 aircraft last year and is the 13th busiest air traffic control center in the United States. From Longmont, flights from 9 western states are managed out of the location at 17th and Hoover. Today, we have the STEM Innovation Center with the school district providing drone pilot certification, as well as classes and testing for private pilot certification. My high school didn't provide that, and I was at an Air Force Strategic Air Command base, and so we didn't get that. 500 students and families are at the STEM Innovation Center leveraging that, and they're lucky to have that opportunity. We are home to 3 living astronauts, Vance Brand, Dr. John Grunsfeld, and Colonel Jim Boss. And I'm super proud to say I live in Longmont, a city that's invested in and supporting business, education, and aeronautics.
Thank you. I'll let you do that. Okay, thank you. Okay. So the next one on the list is Connie Hamming.
Good evening. My name is Connie Hamming. I reside at 2129 Winding Drive. I am here to talk with you again about the facility being run at 2200 Winding Drive, which is in an R1 residentially zoned neighborhood. When Mr. Mabaraz spoke to council a few weeks ago, he said that his program was one of a kind, no other kind like it. Well, what kind is it? Is it some kind of extension of a minimum security prison facility? Is it some kind of a treatment center? We may not know exactly what it is yet, but we do know what it is not. It is not just a sober living residence. It is not a homeowner renting out their home to someone who just wants to live there. It is not a business owner running their business out of the home that they live in. It is not a residence as intended by the R1 zoning. R1 zoning, according to the city's website, was to establish and preserve quiet residential districts for primarily low-density detached one-family dwellings. ... The home at 2200 Winding Drive was sold last August. Here's the write-up from Zillow. Located in Prairie Village on a corner lot, white picket fence and side entrance garage. Backyard has a large paver patio recently added. Inside, you will find 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms layout. With vaulted ceiling, family room, cozy gas fireplace, an open kitchen with granite countertops, wood floors, located minutes from shopping, dining, and rough and ready park. This home is a must-see. Well, we must see it now. It says that sounds like a home that belongs in an R1 zoned neighborhood, but a facility serving multiple registered sex offenders who are completing the sentences of their felony convictions is not what the R1 zoning intended. I heard there were 7, well now 8, offenders living there. If that is so, it must be getting pretty full. I wonder which Longmont neighborhood the next facility will be located in, since the city and the council refuse to enforce the residential zoning regulations as they are intended. Please use this common sense and put a stop to this. This facility may be one of a kind, but it's very similar to the Longmont Community Treatment Center.
Thank you. Adeline Marquez.
Good evening, council members. My name is Adilene Marquez. I am a Longmont resident, and I am here representing Boulder County Public Health. I am here to ask that you deny Ordinance 0-2025-29 as written or amend it significantly before moving forward. We strongly urge the council to undertake a comprehensive revision of the ordinance, one that explicitly prohibits indoor marijuana smoking and fully addresses the significant health, safety, and community impacts associated with it. This ordinance does not meet the standard our community deserves. It permits indoor marijuana smoking in hospitality businesses without addressing the growing research on the harms of secondhand cannabis smoke. According to the 2024 U.S. Surgeon General's report, secondhand marijuana smoke contains many of the same toxic and cancer-causing chemicals found in tobacco smoke, including formaldehyde, ammonia, lead, and benzene. Some are present at even higher levels than in tobacco smoke. Indoor marijuana smoking creates particulate matter levels 3 times higher than the cigarette smoke. The level of exposure increases risk of asthma, lung irritation, and cardiovascular problems. Ways of addressing these risks for customers and workers are missing from the current ordinance. The ordinance also does not include any plan for air quality monitoring, ventilation standards, or protective measures for workers. Hospitality employees could be at risk of being asked to work in smoke-filled environments with no guaranteed health protections. We also urge council to consider the implication of allowing marijuana smoking as an accessory use in venues like comedy clubs or spas, where patrons don't expect smoke exposure. This limits the public's ability to make informed choices about protecting themselves from secondhand smoke and further normalizes indoor smoking in a wide range of environments. In addition to public health, public safety deserves more attention. Unlike alcohol service, there is no clear standard for identifying when someone has consumed too much cannabis. How will business owners know if someone is impaired? What systems are in place to prevent overconsumption, ensure safe transportation, or protect nearby pedestrians and drivers? This concern remains even if hospitality is limited to topicals and edibles, and this deserves significant consideration. Finally, while the ordinance aligns with what is permitted by the Colorado Clean Indoor Air Act, we would be asking what is right for Longmont. The exemption is a permissive floor, not a protective ceiling. Just because the state allows it doesn't mean we should adopt it. Many cities have chosen to go further to protect clean indoor and public health. We can do the same. In summary, we urge you to deny or amend this amendment.
Thank you. Chelsea Jewell.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of council, my name is Chelsea Jewell. I live on the corner of 21st and Sunlight in Ward 1. Tonight I brought with me a couple of educational materials printed off from your website. This is the council's vision for the people of Longmont. Quote, Longmont will be the world's greatest village where children are most fortunate to be born and raised. Another quote outlines the council's priorities. Using a building as a metaphor, the foundation of their work are core services, including public safety. A closer look at the council priorities shows additional emphasis on safety, quality of life, walkability, and, quote, safe, affordable, and attainable housing. Just on this one visual, I think similar to that one, although that one says 2023, there are 4 mentions of the word safe or safety. I know that what I and my fellow parents in Longmont are asking for is not necessarily easy, and I appreciate your careful consideration of all angles. It is not my goal, or that of anyone else here, to unreasonably displace members of our community or to inadvertently create areas of Longmont that are less safe than others. But please understand that by allowing a for-profit company to house 8 registered sex offenders in a residential single-family home in our neighborhood, you are doing exactly that. You are displacing members of our community who would like to achieve attainable housing in a neighborhood right next to a park and walkable to an elementary school, and creating an area of Longmont that is less safe than others. Our only goal is to know that our kids are safe when they walk to school, play at the park, and live their day-to-day lives. Something you say here 4 different times is one of your biggest priorities. So please show us that you mean what you say. Thank you.
Thank you. John Grunsfeld? Oh, okay. Anna Graves? Thank you. No, it'll just go back. So you have to wait till she's right up there.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of council, my name is Anna Graves and I live in Prairie Village South. In the 7 weeks since you first heard about 2200 Winding Drive, the house has grown from 5 registered sex offenders to 8. Also in the past 7 weeks, in case you haven't noticed, the Mobaras Solutions website has changed. The removal of the words sex offender, the new mention of CAR, the addition of experienced advisors, for which LinkedIn shows only one of these individuals becoming involved mere weeks ago. And finally, an exciting update that Mobaras Solutions has 6 to 8 vacancies in Longmont, demonstrating an intention to take what started as a house of 5 and grew to 8 under your watch to what could very soon be a house of as many as 16 registered sex offenders less than 300 feet from a playground. Mobaras told you he has a vetting process for his program. He said, and I quote, "These are individuals that are deemed low risk and safe to be in the community." I have to ask, in what world is a felon sex offender who committed a crime against a child in the past year on parole with a judicial order to make no contact with children living 300 feet from a playground in a community filled with families, low risk and safe? And what is said process? The Mobaras Solutions website claims that somebody, who we don't know, conducts thorough interviews and vetting processes. That's all we know. Oh, and these 2 things. Mobaras Solutions can conduct their thorough vetting process in as quickly as 12 hours following release from prison, as is stated in a testimonial on his website. And in order to gain a CAR certification, their vetting process must ensure that residents are recovering from substance abuse, as that is how far CAR's oversight reaches. On that note, CAR continues to ignore requests for confirmation of when the facility was certified, and Colorado's BHA, who manages CAR's contract, stated in emails last month that no certification was in place when this facility was established. We, the parents and voting constituents of Longmont, deserve better, and the 8 registered sex offenders living at 2200 Winding Drive deserve better. They deserve state-governed intentional community reintegration. They deserve to be placed where they have less risk right outside of their windows. They deserve not to be thrown into this situation by a man who knows all the right words to say to your faces and on his website, only to antagonize your constituents right outside these chambers, as he did a few weeks ago, as he did in Firestone last year, and as he will continue to do by growing this house without a single notice to our community. And they deserve to have a second chance in a home where the entire community that surrounds them wasn't blindsided and is now living in fear for the safety of their children. Please, I beg you, stop being complicit in the rapid expansion of 2200 Winding Drive before it grows into a housing complex of 16 registered sex offenders in a single-family residential zone, or worse, before a child is harmed.
Thank you. So, next person, Charlotte Iverson.
Forgive me if my voice fades. My acid reflux is really kicking up tonight. Charlotte Iverson, 182 Olympia Avenue. The main purpose of local government is to provide services and address issues directly impacting the lives of their constituents. This includes creating a safe, healthy, and vibrant environment for residents. Longmont has ordinances that sidewalks must be shoveled within 24 hours of snowstorms. Weeds cannot exceed 12 inches in height. licensings for dogs, cats, and pot-belly pigs over the age of 6 months, leash laws, etc., and zoning laws regarding types of dwellings, maximum heights, lot sizes, licensing of businesses, and improving their locations, to name a few. Thousands of pages of ordinances, codes, regulations for these topics and hundreds of others, but not a single ordinance that restricts how many sex offenders can live in one dwelling, distance restrictions from schools, parks. There is nothing in place to provide for our safety. In February, Mubarak Solutions, a for-profit commercial enterprise, moved into Prairie Village under the radar without certification, housing felony-convicted sex offenders into a single-family residential home on Winding Drive. Originally, there were 5 sex offenders. Now there are 8. They ignored CAR certification for their halfway house and our zoning laws, without any regard for the impact of our neighborhood and our city. Longmont needs to protect all of its citizens and neighborhoods by passing an ordinance which applies to all sex offenders with distance requirements and then limiting the number of offenders in a dwelling to 2. Without an ordinance, Mubarak Solutions is doing business on Winding Drive. It is logical to assume that they, along with other companies, will be emboldened to use more single-family homes for their businesses, thus reducing the number of attainable homes for families and seniors and threatening the safety of our citizens, young and old alike. The council needs to act now to stop this from happening throughout Longmont. In addition, the residents of Prairie Village are at extremely high risk, safety risk, due to the outrageous number of offenders living in one house. We need immediate relief from these horrific situations. Therefore, the council is prudent in 1, blocking Mubarak Solution from adding more people into that house, reduce the number of offenders immediately, and Mubarak Solutions had no certification, thus they should not be here. We must also enforce all ordinance forbidding commercial enterprises doing business in spaces not specifically designated for that purpose.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Best indicator of future behavior is past behavior.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on the list is Amy DeLula. Okay, thank you. Strider Benston.
Thank you. I haven't been in my 80s before, so some things are different. Strider Benston, 951 17th. I could talk about the person who may be in the White House or Mar-a-Lago or on a golf course, or I could talk about, the destruction of human rights, immigration, voting rights, all of that, national parks, but I've done that before. Could talk about the terrific demonstrations in Longmont the last 3 weeks of 4,000 or 5,000 people protesting on behalf of liberty, justice, equality, human rights, national parks, Head Start, anything you want. But really, the point is, a few days ago, we lost Pope Francis, who was one of at least 2 Christian popes in the last 2,000 years. There may be others, but my 60 years of study, I don't know of John the 23rd and Pope Francis, who the first one ever who adopted the name of Francis of Assisi, who believed in birds and poor people and living, modestly and all of that. And he was even born in a miracle because his family was escaped. They had a coffee shop in Turin, and they were going to take a ship to Argentina to get away from the fascist dictatorship of Mussolini. But they couldn't make a sail quick enough, so they didn't make the ship, and the ship went down in the Atlantic, and everybody died. And they went a few months later. So he was born in Argentina and believed in, well, he started out being very conservative, and then he learned, and at one point he said, I've made grave errors on behalf of, the sexual thing, and he appointed more minorities on the bishops and cardinals than perhaps every other pope in history before. And we lost a great man. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. John Lemke? Did I say that right?
Good evening. My name is John Lemke. I live at 744 Stonebridge Drive. I learned that people outside this room actually listen to what we say, which was very surprising to me. I also learned that it's important to talk about positive things at city council meetings and not just the things that we ask for, or just things that we want. So I'm here to talk about a bunch of great things about our city. Mimi, we heard from earlier, is my daughter's dance teacher. She does a phenomenal job teaching dance in downtown Longmont. I bike to work most days. My wife takes our daughters to school on the bike path most days of the school year. As long as it's above 20 degrees, my girls are perfectly happy to jump in the stroller and take the 20-minute walk to school, which is awesome. My wife and I are able to bike from our house to Left Hand's Beer Garden, which is an amazing place for little kids because it is fenced in and it is huge, and tons of families bring their kids there to run around and play. There's a new playground at Clover Meadows that's amazing. It has a little bike skills park that my daughters really love. The new park at Thompson Park, that new playground, fantastic. I have to say, it is very popular with the kids. For those of you who may not know, we have some amazing aerospace companies. Honeybee Robotics, who was talked about before, I used to work there. They're building a drone that is going to spend 8 years traveling through space to Saturn's moon. It will land and fly around autonomously on the surface of the moon and drill into the surface. We have a company here that builds batteries for satellites, and a startup company that builds solar panels for satellites. I personally work for a robotics company called Scythe Robotics, which is really exciting. We spend a lot of time talking to the folks at the Innovation Center. We've had multiple schools come in to check out our robots. We pop them open, let the kids climb all over them, check out how they work. So it's really exciting that we get to bring in schools and students to see what it is we do here in Longmont. Our downtown is another thing we should be proud of. I'm going to name some of my personal favorites. A little plug for them. Urban Field, Quarters, Sweet Cow, Longs Peak Pub, Bricks on Main, Martinis, Luminous Tea. All these places in downtown Longmont are amazing. I go there all the time with my family. Our school district is one of the best, is actually the best in the state, which is awesome. If you didn't know what they do at the Innovation Center, they teach kids how to fly planes, repair planes, program artificial intelligence, and develop robots. So that's all the great things. I will be returning here in the future for an ask on voting reform. It's something called ranked choice voting. So I wanted to start with, these are all the things I am grateful for. I will be back for what I'm going to ask you for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Like how you set that up. Okay, the last one on the list is Stephen Alschuler.
Good evening. You ready?
Yeah.
Stephen Altschuler, 1555 Taylor Drive. I'm going to struggle here a little bit because I didn't bring my glasses. You've heard from a lot of people for many weeks now about what's going on in the House with sexual offenders. I hope it's really got all of your attention. because it should. These are the people of Longmont speaking to you, and it can't get any more direct than this. As I look at the people back here, I see a room full of adults. So my question is, there's a word called transparency. And I'd like to know why you need to hide in private quarters and have an executive session and talk to the lawyer and talk to the city manager and talk to everybody else without people from the city being present. Why not have the conversation right here? The lawyer is not going to let you do anything that's illegal. You could say, well, let's limit it to 6 people. And he could say, well, there's only 3 bedrooms. Legally, we can limit it to 3. Why can't we all hear the process that you go through to come to your decisions? There is a reason why a lot of Longmont has no faith in the city council and governments all across our country. Last night, I think, I forget if it was in Denver or another city, they passed a bill at midnight when nobody could see and hear what they were doing. And this just makes all the citizens, let's just say, feel very suspicious about our government. So that's a big part of what I wanted to talk about. Have it right now. Have it in front of your lawyer. You don't have to come to a decision. You don't have to make a final verdict. But why not have the conversation where people can see the thought process, who feels what way, what some of the questions are, what some of the problems might be, so we can all understand what's going on. The other thing I'd like to say is a couple of weeks ago, again, in Denver, they passed a bill, I'm not sure if Polis has signed it yet, saying that if little Timmy wants to be called Tabitha and mom or dad don't call him Tabitha, that the state can come in and kidnap that child and take it away from the parents. That is obscene. That is gross. That is hopefully something that Longmont may step up and say, hey, we're a home rule city. We're not going to do that crap. I would like to see city council standing up for the residents of Longmont and not criminals and not the destruction of our children. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So I see that no one else is on the list, so I will close public invited to be heard. We are now on to the consent agenda and introduction and reading by title of first reading ordinances. Crystal, can you please read the consent agenda for the record?
Yes, Mayor Protem. Second reading and public hearing for all ordinances introduced on this consent agenda will be held on May 6, 2025. Item 9A, ordinance 2025-27. A bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the vacation of a LPC and water easement and a utility easement generally located west of Sunset Street and north of Donovan Drive along the southern boundary of lots 1 and 2, Bacon Subdivision Replat A. Item 9B is ordinance 2025-28, a bill for an ordinance approving the vacation of an easement of a utility easement on parcels A, B, and C of Tract A of land north of Sunset Diagonal Business Park and west of Fletcher Minor Subdivision Plat, generally located southeast of the intersection of Nelson Road and Fairgrounds Road. Item 9C is ordinance 2025, a bill for an ordinance amending titles 6, 9, 10, and 15 of the Longmont Municipal Code implementing marijuana hospitality licensed establishments. And item 9D is approve one capital improvement program amendment.
Thank you. Oh, we have, it's growing, okay, right before my eyes. Okay, Councilmember Popkin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually had a point of information before we get to this, if this is in order. I thought that the mayor was going to ask a question of the city manager, and the mayor's not here. And I didn't really want to wait until the council items because it's relevant for a lot of the discussion that, the public comments that we've heard.
Did you want to pull an item from the consent agenda?
I did as well.
Okay.
But it's not related to that, admittedly. So I was hoping to just direct a quick point of information and then move on, but I realize that's unusual. So I just wanted to be transparent about what I was trying to do.
Are you good with that? Go ahead.
Thanks. So as a point of information, again, I thought that the mayor was going to kind of prompt this. Obviously, she's not present right now, so maybe not everything got communicated in a bit of a transition here. I was just curious if you could explain, Harold, a little bit more about what is happening behind the scenes right now. While I know we have the ordinance in the works for the sex offender distance requirements, if you could elaborate more just for kind of our shared benefit and the public's as to what staff is working on right now, what the city is working on right now, and kind of, at least to the extent that you're comfortable sharing this setting at this time, given the legal questions involved.
Yeah, so a few things are in play. So obviously the ordinance is being drafted for the 6th based on the direction that we have tonight. We're going to have a second ordinance with no meeting next week. We'll be able to hit the packet for the second ordinance related to reducing the number of registered sex offenders in a dwelling unit. Eugene's going to provide the legal advice. We have been moving through a fair number of operational issues. And for context, many of these things, and this will be in the council communication, will be detailed very specifically. Be very specific in what we're dealing with. And so I think when we look at this challenge, the things that have come forward, and we've indicated this before, and we talk about home rule cities, and we actually had this conversation Thursday at Coffee with Council, and the concept of preemption plays heavily in this, in the sense that there are two specific pieces of legislation that was drafted by the state. One was the legislation that had the 4 categories, essentially sober living homes, homes for older adults, homes for disabled individuals, and I'm dropping the fourth one right now. That legislation is very specific, in that it said that it's essentially a matter of state interest, and that that legislation states that cities cannot look at those facilities in a different way than we look at single-family residential units. So start there. Significant piece of legislation in terms of what it does to our ability and our codes that are in place, not unlike the legislation that the state passed related to accessory dwelling units. And in that legislation, the state once again said that's a matter of state interest. And so cities can no longer prohibit accessory dwelling units. Also removed an HOA's ability to prohibit accessory dwelling units. So you're seeing preemption from the state there. Separate and apart from those two pieces of legislation, there was a third piece of legislation that was actually drafted in the last legislative session that said that cities can no longer make distinctions based on the number of related persons that live in a home. So those are all 3 things that the state has passed within the last 4 to 5 legislative sessions that in many ways creates conflicts within the code. So a lot of things that we had embedded in our code that would allow us to deal with those issues, we can't use, or we have to work through how we use it based on the scope of the new legislation that's been coming at us from the state level. Separate and apart from this issue, I think this has been a tough period, and this session is not any different in terms of things that are coming at the local level where we're starting to see this impact. So that's inherently the issue that we're dealing with, and having to really flow through and follow different pieces. There are policy issues of which are coming to you. There are operational issues that are we've been dealing with this week. Yesterday, spent a lot of time going through this very conversation and what that really means, and what does it mean to building and fire code. And the clarity that I think I have at this point is that what the state did was talk about things from a land use perspective. There's specific exemptions for building and fire code, and we're working those right now as we speak. But it is, you're having to go to point A to point B, refer back to make sure that, that's in place. So that's the operational side of this. I can say many of the questions that the public has been asking, we've been asking the very same questions to the point of making open records requests. records request were not. They did not respond to us in the same way that they did not respond to the residents. I have instructed staff to file additional open records requests and actually cite case law, because these are the very things that we're beholden to our community on a daily basis. And so it is frustrating when we do this on a daily basis and we respond in a timely manner. And all of that will be detailed, it will have excruciating detail in the council comm in terms of the issues that we're dealing with. This may be one operationally where we have to push the envelope on getting information because of the way the state laws are written. Information is incredibly important. Details are incredibly important. And we just need people to answer our open records request. And I'm not an attorney, but I think that there is specific rules that I'm aware of, that just because you're a contractor of the state doesn't make you immune to responding to open records requests. Even if there's information that needs to be redacted, you redact the information and you still give them the sheets. We do this all the time. And so it has been incredibly challenging, but we're moving forward at a different clip. I didn't know that was a question, but if that question would have come in agenda comments, there you go. And it's fresh on our mind.
And you will be making time on the 6th to share some more background.
The detail on the presentation is going to be immense, covering all of these
There you
issues.
go. Perfect.
Thank you. And that'll, just to clarify, that'll all be available publicly through the council communication,
Correct.
through the agenda portal.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Great. Thank you, and thanks for the grace from my fellow council members
Yes,
for that
yes.
unorthodox
Okay.
point of information.
Do
Can
you
I
have
pull
an
it back?
item? Yes, please.
Great. Thank you, Harold. To pull it back to the consent agenda, I'd like to remove ordinance 2025-29, a bill for an ordinance amending titles 6, 9, 10, and 15 of the Longmont Municipal Code implementing marijuana hospitality licenses from the consent agenda.
Okay. Anyone else want to pull an item?
Additionally, I would like to pull item A, ordinance 2025-27.
Okay, and then thank you. Would you like to move the?
And I will move the consent agenda
Minus.
exceeding or accepting item A and item C.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Did you have a comment? Yes.
Yeah, I have a comment from my fellow. Maybe not. Hold on. Nope.
She
I
rolled
rescind
A
that.
and C. Okay. Thank you. So the consent agenda has been moved by Councilmember Christ and seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. Can we have a vote? Can you turn that off? Thanks. Yours is not? Do you need to refresh it? Refresh, see what happens. Okay. So hers didn't show up either. Do you want a verbal vote? She exited, so. Yeah, I think you have to go, you have to go to that one. And then let's see if it popped up. Let's see, and there it is. Okay, go ahead and vote. Okay, so that passes unanimously with those present, minus Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy. So we are now on to the ordinances on second reading and public hearings on any matter. Did anyone need a bio break before we continue? Okay. So we're going to take a 5-minute. Okay, if you can make your way back to the dais, we're going to go ahead and get started. It did go fast. I'll set it for 6 next time. Okay. So now we are on ordinances on second reading and public hearings on any matter. The first one is A in ordinance 2025-25, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the city of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning in January 1st, 2025. Okay, do we have any presentation or discussion? Okay, do we have any questions from council? Okay, so I will now open the public hearing on ordinance 25-25. And I did not see anyone on the list, but if there's anyone who would like to speak on this. Okay, so I will. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And may I have a motion to pass and adopt ordinance 2025-25?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so that has been moved by Councilmember Christ and seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, yay. Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. Too happy over there.
Sean's not here. I get to second it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mine disappeared too.
It did, yeah. Yeah. You guys are getting snarky over there. Okay, so that passes unanimously with those of us present, minus Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy. So we are now at item B in ordinance 2025-26, a bill for an ordinance authorizing a farmland lease agreement between the City of Longmont and J. Doshef Farms. I hope I said that right. What is it? Dochef. Dochef. Farms LLC on the Olander property. Is there any information from staff? Are there any questions from council? Okay, so I will now open the public hearing on ordinance 2025-26. Is there anyone for the public who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, so I will close public hearing. May I have a motion to pass and adopt ordinance 2025-26?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so it has been moved by Councilmember Chris, seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. If there are no questions or comments, let's go ahead and vote. And it went away again.
Spinning wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do a verbal vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, okay. Any opposed? No. Okay, so that passes 5-0 with minus Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy. So we are now on to the items removed from the consent agenda, and we'll go ahead and start. Who pulled A? That was you. Okay, so Councilmember Christ, we'll start at the top. You're getting there.
So I see Molly Day here. Thank you, Molly, for answering my questions today. I actually pulled this because I want to raise awareness and just get a general discussion going. One of the things that was in the business news has to do with the national policy making, and particularly as it relates to energy. And there was discussion about concerns and potential punitive action, I guess I would say, towards any discrimination in regards to energy usage. In other words, we need to be making all energy sources available. And not so much that I'm concerned about a lawsuit, but maybe a loss of funding, which could be dramatic. So I was talking with Molly about this project because they're asking for vacancy of an easement that would, that right now provides gas service to that property. But there are other extenuating circumstances with this parcel. For one, it's been in the pipeline for a while. For another, they actually have to move the easements, and that's a cost to building the project because they have to move it to the back of the property for this project. So I just brought this up so that we could be more aware that this is a sensitive topic, perhaps nationally going forward, and that may funnel down into some of our policy making as well, and we should likely be sensitive to it. So, does anyone else have anything they would like to say about this particular item?
Okay, Councilmember Popkin.
Councilmember Christ, I appreciate you bringing attention to what seems like, I guess, a national energy issue in the context of a local easement. I think this conversation would be particularly relevant when we discuss kind of energy code updates. In this case, we're dealing with a private property owner and their rights to use, they're only required to connect to Longmont Electric, if I understand correctly. And then they have options on what types of utilities they would like to do, just as any private developer of any size or private property owner of any size would like to do. So while I understand where you're coming from in terms of the question or the issue you're raising, in this case, we're dealing purely with a private property owner trying to follow what is allowed under our land use code.
I agree. Okay, thank you. So, is there? Okay, did you want to move this item, or?
Yeah, barring any other discussion. And I don't know how else I would bring, or when I might bring up this topic. It led me to the thinking about what I'd read in the business news, and we have 2 easement vacating on this agenda. So I will move item A.
Okay, so ordinance 2025-27 has been moved by Councilmember Christ and seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. I don't want to break your streak. Okay, so that passes unanimously minus Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy. And now we are on to item C, ordinance 2025-29, and I will give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a quick question. Oh, so I removed this from the consent agenda because I have generally been in the minority from council on moving this policy forward overall. And I'm hoping that at this point, where's my note on this? I'm hoping at this point that I really, the concerns that I have about implementation can be realized at this point. It's going to happen. I recognize that. So overall, I was hoping to suggest a path forward that allows Longmont to enable new types of businesses here, as council seems to want overall, and some members of the public do. But I don't think that we should change our code to allow for indoor smoking. Or for these, I don't think we should change our code to allow for indoor smoking for these facilities. So I'm intending to make an amendment here. I wanted to clarify with the city attorney what I would be amending specifically, or maybe one of our attorneys, what I'd be amending specifically, because I'm having trouble locating the exact language here that is authorizing that beyond what's in the council communication. So I just wanted to make be specific with my motion before I made it.
Absolutely. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, Tim Hull, Assistant City Attorney, filling in for the clerk's office as well. So I'm kind of filling both chairs here.
Thank you.
So there's two areas of the code that are in here that allow indoor smoking. First is the amendments to Title 10. That's the Clean Indoor Air Act of Longmont. So the addition of Section D to Title 1036 110 that allows indoor smoking of only marijuana, of not tobacco, inside of a marijuana hospitality business. And then there's an additionally...
And so that would be what we have, that Section D on page 3 of that ordinance amendment language?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
And then one additional one, if you bear with me for a second. I apologize. So it Title 9, 940-040, that's the Clean Indoor Air Act. Title 10 is the public consumption of marijuana. So that allows public consumption of marijuana. But it is just consumption of marijuana, so it's still a consumption of marijuana whether you're smoking it or otherwise. So if you left that alone and just amended Title 9, that would be just the burning of the material.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. So effectively, if I wanted to make an amendment, making a motion to amend this to not allow for indoor smoking in these facilities, I would just strike that Section D from the language changes. Is that?
That's my understanding without a much closer look, but that appears to do it.
Okay. This is something I'd like to hear from my fellow council members on. As we heard from one public comment earlier, that actually referenced some CDC, Center for Disease Control, guidance and information. Generally secondhand, so we can talk about the direct harms or health consequences of actually smoking really anything. Secondhand cannabis smoke also contains many of the same toxic and cancer-causing chemicals found in tobacco smoke, and some in higher amounts. And secondhand cannabis smoke also contains THC, the compound responsible for most of cannabis's psychoactive effects, or the high, if you will. That's a direct quote from the Center for Disease Control. This to me suggests that there are other consequences to people other than those who are just intending to consume. And that could include employees, that could include visitors, that could include anyone else who's frequenting a facility here that may not have that primary intention of consuming cannabis. Because there are multiple other forms of ways to consume cannabis, I don't think we would be doing away with the intention that council has set previously, or the intention of some members of the public who are interested in having these types of businesses to allow non-smoking forms of cannabis consumption. So I guess I'll hold on making my motion formally now, just to see what fellow council members want to, or would that be helpful to make the motion specifically? It would be germane to discussing it. Thank you. Then I will motion to approve. Or I will motion to amend. Ordinance 2025-29 to remove Section D, Section 9D, I believe it was, which reads as an exemption to the prohibition in. I don't need to read that. It's 9D, I believe, that blue text. So motion to amend Ordinance 2025-29 to remove Section 9D from the ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So now it's open for discussion, and I'm going to start with Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So if my recollection serves, we did not allow really any mixed use concept where, for instance, the mayor was definitely very adamantly against the ability for there to be a restaurant with consumption. So like, my point being is that there's not a mixed use. Anybody that would go into said facility would be aware of the activity in said facility, because there's no such thing as mixed use in how we structured the ordinance, correct? Like, there's only one use. Consumption.
So,
or whatever, you know. You understand what I'm saying?
I think I understand exactly what you're saying. That to enter the licensed premises, you will have to go through a security checkpoint, and they'll have to verify that you're 21, and you'll be entering, kind of, with the knowledge that you're entering a consumption area. But one of the things that this ordinance is doing is kind of accepting that there are creative ideas for how these businesses might look. One of them that's been thrown around is a comedy club that has a licensed premises covering the comedy club. So
okay.
So there's a secondary use, but you'd still be entering a licensed premises.
Well, yeah, you're providing entertainment in said consumption facility.
Yes.
It's not a comedy club with a secondary function as a consumption facility.
Actually, point of clarification, I believe the marijuana hospitality is actually an accessory use under the code.
This is what I'm trying to clarify. The language, I think the intent of what you're saying is accurate. The language of the accessory use is how the development code uses that term.
Okay. So what's the primary use, if that's an accessory use?
So the way this ordinance is structured, and I might kick it to Grant for clarifications. The city clerk's office, the city attorney's office, and the planning department worked pretty closely together to make this match council's direction as much as possible in the previous guidance. So there is a primary use of what we called a marijuana bar. So essentially like a cigar bar. That would be a primary use where that's a marijuana sales and hospitality business. But we've also made a secondary use of marijuana hospitality that follows a primary use, such as spa, comedy club. You could do maybe a bed and breakfast in which you had a primary use was the bed and breakfast, but it was also a marijuana hospitality business. But we didn't really know how to guess at all the ways that this could come about, so they added the secondary use for planning purposes as a way to kind of keep that door open, consistent with council direction.
Sure.
But you will still have a consumption area that will be limited to individuals 21 and
Right.
up, and that will be mandatory.
So for comparison's sake, we have a business that's operated in the city of Longmont for probably decades now. Havana Manor is a tobacco sales shop, but also has a lounge that allows for indoor consumption of tobacco products, be it pipe, cigar, cigarette. And so my question being is the primary use of that facility, the retail function, and then they have an accessory function for the consumption lounge?
I think that was gone through planning approval so long ago that no one was around when that happened. I asked similar questions while we were doing this. I think we kept going back to, well, how do cigar bars do it? They're not called out in the planning,
Right,
in the
okay.
planning code like we are doing now. I don't know if you have a better answer. No.
No? Okay. Well, so my argument is that we functionally have these businesses. It's just not cannabis. Okay? It's tobacco, which, as stated by the people who are against indoor smoking, is at least the same. And the folks that work there obviously have an understanding of what the business does. So it's not like it's a blind, it's not an involuntary secondhand smoke, okay, inhalation. And I don't think that anybody that would work at such a business would be so naive to think that they're not going to a certain degree, have some sort of secondhand effect on them. I also think that it was a little bit inaccurate that it was stated earlier by member public invited to be heard that there is no requirements as far as ventilation and filtering and things like that. There is requirements for ventilation and filtering as far as I understand. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's an odor management control plan that they have to execute.
Odor management, and
There is ventilation.
yes, and ventilation, and so on. And so it was incorrect for that to be stated that we don't have requirements that surround ventilation and odor management and things like that. So my opinion is that involuntary secondhand smoke exposure is highly unlikely, in the sense that it's not anybody can just wander in and out of this facility, as was already stated. There's mediation required for the smoke. And so, in my opinion, I find it hypocritical to turn a blind eye to a cigar bar and then force regulations upon a hospitality licensee. So I will not support the amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why I would support having it indoor, and I had mentioned this back when we discussed this in the early days, is to have it outside. Then that creates involuntary secondhand smoke ventilation. I've lived in an apartment. I've lived in duplex where the neighbors they just puffed away and it was very involuntary as it's seeping into our homes. So I think, and I was going to ask if we did need to amend this ordinance to incorporate or ensure that there is some kind of HVAC or ventilation, but I think it sounds like that's probably already mandated.
Was that a question to me?
Yes,
Just to be
it
sure.
is, yes.
I'm pulling up the Colorado rules to see if there's any more clarity. It's been a little while since I've looked at that particular issue. You can always amend Title 6 and
Okay.
add in a specific ventilation plan. There are odor management control plans that are required as part of the business licenses.
Yes, yeah.
It's the same is true for the current retail licenses.
Okay. So in the event that the state doesn't have anything ensuring that that option to not mandate or not follow strict HVAC and ventilation systems in these places, I would like to have that added in. I think that might address what we're looking at as far as secondhand smoke and clarity. I mean, again, people who are coming to this already smoke, or they already know what business, when they apply to work at these establishments, they already know that what they're getting into, and they're all adults. I will. I know. Yeah. I just don't want it by my house.
So a commercial smoke eater or combination system would be specifically kind of what you were looking at.
Yeah, okay.
That's
And it's required, and it's already required.
Well, it seems like it's murky.
Murky, okay. So then, I'm gonna go ahead, does anyone have any questions, comments on this particular motion? So I'm gonna call you next.
I think the problem is an open burning cigarette, or whether it's tobacco or marijuana. And I wasn't around when the cigar bars were developed, but when it comes to marijuana, I think there are e-cigarettes or vaping or units that you can use that aren't as easily secondhand smoke. Oh, is it bad?
Oh, yeah, no, yep,
It's worse.
I think so. My daughter did it.
And I don't know how bad the toxicity is of that, but we do have we should be having this conversation because safety and the health of the public is a policy issue. So I was going to suggest, a non-burning utility, but maybe a smoke eater is better. Maybe both. So I agree. I'm not in favor of a smoke den, I guess. And there are other mediums that you can take to consume. Yeah, so I agree with the amendment.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Christ. I appreciate your support. Just want to address a couple of the points that have been made and then not belabor the point further. First, indoor versus outdoor. We're approving code language for a facility where we're discussing specifically indoor air quality and indoor health. If we have issues with outdoor air quality, I'd welcome that conversation too.
We've had this discussion. That's why I'm saying.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think that when we're talking about the indoor facility use, that's what we're specifically looking at with this particular amendment. Whether one's better or worse, I would like to reduce some of these air quality issues regardless. I don't think, contrary to the point that Councilmember Rodriguez made, I don't think we're actually limiting businesses here. We're actually enabling new ones. Like from the start of this, what council's done well before I was on council, you've been having conversations with folks who would like to open these types of businesses and have a marijuana hospitality license. This at the end of the day is ultimately an experiment. There are very, very few operating facilities in Colorado that have this type of license under the new state law. And I'm on the fence about how comfortable I feel about this overall experiment. But I think why not, if we're going to take this experiment, let's experiment with things that don't affect the indoor air quality first. We can always modify it later if we think that that is less of an issue, or if we want to, if the marijuana hospitality license holders really see an economic benefit that would be really outweighing any potential public health consequences. I think I'd be open to that conversation at a later date as to whether we want to open that door. But we're kind of embarking on two experiments here. One is just stepping into the marijuana hospitality sector, first of all, and allowing those types of licenses to exist and businesses to exist. And the second is opening this up to the marijuana, the indoor consumption and smoking of marijuana, the indoor smoking consumption of marijuana here, per my amendment. So I understand that people are coming here, should understand what type of facility this is or business this is, but that doesn't mean they are coming there to smoke. They could be coming to consume marijuana in other forms and may not be interested in the smoking aspect of that or the secondhand smoke. So they're, even for consumers of this, like customers and consumers of these products and these facilities, there are secondhand consequences to that. So I'd be open to this experiment of allowing marijuana hospitality licenses to see what opportunities that it provides. I'd love to not embark on a second public health experiment at the same time.
Okay. So, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just in response, first of all, he's not here tonight, of course. Lance Whitaker was one of the main petitioners for us to even make this move, and it was specifically part of his business model. So we would technically be limiting one of the people that inspired the change in the first place. And then second of all, it's not an experiment because there are cigar bars. So the only thing that's different is the substance. The concept of carcinogens in the air and smoke in the air has already been, we know what the studies say about secondhand smoke. Okay, so it's not an experiment as far as indoor air quality is concerned, because we know what the commercially available systems to remove smoke from the air and odor from the air are. They already exist. They've been in use for decades, if not longer. And so I don't feel this is any more of an experiment than just allowing what wasn't previously an allowable substance to be partaken of to now be partaken of now that state law allows us to. And I'm fairly confident, based on corporate reports, that we will see this federally at some point in the near future, just based on the kind of investments and corporate interest in the industry. So I really don't see this as so much an experiment. I would like to say that I truly believe in syntax in the vocabulary way, but I don't believe in syntaxes in the liberty way. And in my opinion, this would be unfairly hindering what is allowable for other commercial businesses that is not currently allowable just because the substance is newly classified or recently classified. So that's my opinion on the concept of A, the petitioner that inspired the change, and B, the concept of an experiment with indoor air quality.
Thank you. So, Councilmember Yarborough. Oh,
Legal counsel.
oh, legal counsel. Yeah, I didn't even look at you. Go ahead.
So, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So a couple points of clarification. One, it's come to our collective attention that the first 2 pages of the ordinance were missing from the packet. The first 2, and we are currently working on clarifying that as we speak, and we'll send out the full ordinance for your consideration. I apologize about that. I can tell you what the first 2 ordinances say. One is the 5,000 square foot requirement from Title VI. And then the second page is the amendments to Title IX, which is what you're discussing right now. So unfortunately, it was the part you're talking about. And that's all that's on those 2 pages. The other thing I want to clarify is you were asking about the ventilation systems and the requirements there. Under our current ordinance, they're required to have an odor management plan preventing any odor from the licensed premises from being perceptible to an ordinary person at the exterior of the building of the licensed premises or at any space adjoining the licensed premises. So to apply, they have to explain how they're going to do that. Oftentimes, that's at air scrubbers like we discussed. But however they manage to do that, they have to make it not perceptible to immediately outside the business. There is a ventilation system requirement in hospitality state rules, but they're specifically for mobile premises, which we declined to exercise. That's why I was confused on the state rules. So if you are driving a marijuana bus, you have to scrub that out for the driver for fairly obvious reasons.
Well, thank you. That's helpful. Okay, now, Councilmember Yarborough.
Thank you. I kind of feel like we could be sparring all night on this.
Yes.
But originally, I wanted to do this, and I approved this for the same reasons as Mayor Pro Tem, that, you know, I feel like we should provide an opportunity for people to be able to smoke in an area instead of, I know I walked past parks and people were smoking in parks and I can smell it and I can't stand the smell myself. And but given the opportunity where people could smoke, because I know cigar lounges, actually, I smell the cigar smoke. I can smell that more so outside than I can inside the place. And so I think their ventilation system is really, really good. Now, we can amend it to say, just like the cigar lounge, they have an outdoor area. So if people don't want to be indoors while they're smoking, they can make sure that the facility has an outdoor area that's closed in, that's actually a part of their business. And so I don't mind adding that amendment to where someone can purchase their whatever, or whether they sell it or not, they can go outside and partake if they smoke, or they can partake of other substances indoors if they want edibles or whatever. So if they smoke, they can go outside. If they have an area where people can go outside and smoke, they can do that. But I agree with Councilor Rodriguez. If there's opportunities for people to smoke anywhere, they can. Even though I always say this wrong, my daughter tells me don't say it like that. The hookah bars, right? Mm-hmm. So, because I say it a different way, that's not good. So that they can utilize that, and I know they don't serve alcohol in there either. So they sit there and it's like a cloud up in that place. People know when they go in there, that's what they're going to do. So I feel like these are adults, no matter what. They're gonna smoke no matter what, wherever they go. I just feel like providing a space where people can go and partake of cannabis, because we have cannabis dispensaries in the city of Longmont. If we didn't have them in the city of Longmont, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But we have them. So where do you expect people to smoke? I'm just saying. So for me, I won't approve this, but I will approve the original. But since I know we have a quorum, but it looks like it's not going to pass tonight. I don't know if you want to bring it back with the 2 pages that wasn't in there. I don't know. But I don't think it's right for us to say no to this when we have other lounges where people are smoking.
City manager.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, and talking to the city attorney, it appears that this was a PrimeGov compilation issue. I think we had problems with this packet going out. We would actually recommend that based on the first 2 pages, the first page specifically saying, what was the language, Eugene? The Title IX. That we need to probably bring this back for a reintroduction to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's
That sounds
on this one.
wise, yeah. Nope, that works for me. Does anybody else? Okay. So we're going to table this, and do you know when it's coming back? Okay, hold on. Were you talking about reintroducing this at a later date? Do you have the date of what meeting, just the next regular session? No.
It would be the next regular session,
Yeah,
but the
which
next regular session
is the 6th.
is the 6th, where we're bringing all the
Okay.
items related to the ordinances related to the registered sex offenders.
Okay.
I would recommend that we probably bring it at the next meeting.
The one after that.
The one
Okay.
after that.
Okay. So now,
Huh? Oh, yeah, and we have the Japanese contingent here on the 6th as well. so-
okay. Oh, that's gonna be a long one. Okay, so it'll be the following, the one after the next one. Well, no, the next regular session. Yeah, so it'll be pushed further down. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and recognize 6 and then 8. Go ahead.
Number 6. So I just had 3 points. The first one is it's easier to go a little strict to begin with and then ease up as we have more information. Secondly, I would like to make everyone aware that Mr. Whitaker has spent the last 3 months quitting smoking. And third, I just was going to mention, if we're going to make amendments, now's the time to do it, because I know staff prefers to do it on the consent agenda. So I'm in favor of let's move it to the 20th.
Okay, so now, Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and for this actually very thoughtful discussion. I appreciate the conversation. In a moment, I will withdraw my amendment, my motion, so that we can make the time motion there, and that I appreciate the clarification from staff on this, because I probably should have asked in advance. I just assumed that it was just an excerpt of a broader policy package, and I was like, I guess this is how I'm reading between the lines on this. So appreciate that, and I think it'll be helpful clarity for everyone. I guess 2 last points here, and then I'll withdraw my motion. One, if I'm understanding correctly on the technical side, and I'm not an air quality ventilation expert, but odor management is different from air quality management. So
It is.
could be worth us thinking about that if the prevailing thought from the majority here is that an appropriate ventilation system will necessarily be installed. That's not my understanding of odor management. The second thing is I haven't been here for more than 3 months, but I don't know of too many instances where we've made a policy for a single specific business. And so I just encourage us to make sure that we're keeping in mind the broader policy landscape for marijuana hospitality licenses, not just who brought this forward and not just one business that might want to do this. We can think about enabling these new businesses in certain ways and then seeing, to my fellow council member Chris's point, if we want to expand this further and kind of take that one step at a time. There is an experiment here, and that is it's not the smoking piece of it, it's the THC component of this. That is, according to the CDC, also a secondhand consequence or potential consequence. So with that, I will withdraw my motion and make a new motion to table this or to postpone.
Well, I don't think you need to. They're already doing that.
Okay, then I'll just withdraw my
Okay,
motion.
thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I
Yes.
can, I did find an answer to the question you all asked earlier regarding smoking in certain places. Section 9.4.040 says, notwithstanding any other provisions of this chapter, smoking is prohibited in the following places: in retail stores primarily engaged in the sale of tobacco or tobacco accessories, a place of employment that is not open to the public and that is under the control of an employer that employs 3 or fewer employees. However, each such employer shall provide a smoke-free work area for each employee requesting a smoke-free work area, and then in outdoor areas as designated as smoking area by employer. So that is how it relates to the question on the cigar bars. Or cigar locations, tobacco locations.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we are now at general business. Okay, so that is, we were, oh, no, should we vote? You withdrew it, so we're done. Yeah, he withdrew.
No, because of the,
Oh, no. No, she already spoke, yeah. So, no. That's all right. No. So general business item A, 0 reading for an ordinance amending Title 15, Chapter 15.04, Section 15.04.020, Table 4.1, on the commercial daycares and commercial daycare facilities. That was, yeah. It was a while ago. Do we have people coming down? Anybody?
Try to make more motions before we.
Oh, yeah, so it looks like, yeah, no.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Kristen Cody with Planning and Development Services. Thank you. Tonight, I will be providing a brief informational update on proposed commercial daycare code amendments. This is a 0 reading, and no action is requested this evening. In January, and again in March of 2024, City Council directed staff to explore allowing commercial daycare uses in the NPE, which is a primary employment zone district, as a permitted use and not as a conditional secondary use as it currently is. At that time, public safety raised concerns about the proximity of childcare facilities to potentially hazardous land uses, such that the NPE zone includes a mix of employment and industrial uses that may not be ideally suited for sensitive users without additional review. In the NPE zone, some of the uses could be considered higher intensity industrial in nature, which prompted a closer look at safety. The overall goal of this work has been to expand access to childcare while maintaining appropriate environmental and safety protections. How we got here. To develop the draft amendments, staff reviewed many sources, a few of which are our current development code, state licensing requirements, national best practices like the CDC's Choose Safe Places for Early Childhood Care and Education, and code language from peer cities. We also consulted closely with public safety. Initially, they had concerns about allowing daycares by right in the NPE zone, but have indicated support of the approach after we incorporated required hazard assessments and mitigation standards into the draft language. And in doing this research, found that the agricultural zone could also support commercial childcare in different locations. In the agricultural zone, commercial daycare is currently a conditional use, and if this would change, would make it a permitted use. This slide shows how daycare uses are defined in Longmont. There are 3 types: commercial, residential, and those accessory to religious uses. This amendment applies only to commercial daycare facilities, those located in non-residential buildings and licensed by the state. Residential and religious-based daycares are not affected by this proposal. Why environmental buffering matters. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency does not set federal setback distances between childcare and hazardous uses. However, it strongly encourages local jurisdictions to conduct environmental site assessments and avoid siting childcare centers near sources of pollution or businesses that could pose a hazard. As the EPA states, children are more susceptible to the effects of pollutants because their bodies are still developing. Our proposed environmental buffer study and 500-foot radius evaluation directly aligns with those recommendations. This tool is designed to protect the health of children and staff, encourage informed, responsible siting decisions, and ensure that we meet national best practices, even in the absence of mandates. This slide depicts the key amendments that would be in place if this proposal were to go forward. In summary, the amendments would be permit commercial daycares in the NPE and NAG zones subject to safety review, require an environmental buffer study within 500 feet of the site for all new and expanding facilities, prohibit facilities from opening near unmitigated hazards, require site plan review for new development, and allow a site plan waiver for existing buildings, define what constitutes an unmitigated hazard, and include a formal appeal process if the site is deemed unsuitable. Again, this is a 0 reading. There's no action requested tonight. If council is comfortable with the direction of the draft, staff can move forward with preparing the ordinance for formal introduction at a future meeting. If additional changes are desired, I welcome that feedback, and I'm happy to make further refinements based on your direction. And I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this. So I was trying to remember when this, and I believe it was Councilmember Martin who brought this forward in looking to expand just more spaces for people to, and building daycares closer to potential work sites. Is there anyone who had, oh, here you go. Councilmember Christ.
I have had some feedback on the idea of there is in more of an industrial area, probably in the Ward 2 area, down by where the St. Vrain headquarter building is, the administrative building. There's a daycare, which is on more of a feeder street, and then right in where the industrial is, back where the school buses are parked, there's a school, private school. And so the businesses have talked to me about concerns about both of those. For one, the daycare has had to put in some pretty robust walls because there's more traffic in front of there. And then also, when parents come to pick up and drop off, they're on both sides of the street, which at least that street is wide enough that traffic continues, but that's also part of the problem is that's the preschool. So the little children are crossing with their parents and with this traffic, and there isn't, where it's placed, there isn't just a really good crossing, obvious crossing corner there. And then if you go down, and I forget what the name of that street is, there's a Montessori school. And what they did is they took their, what would have been their parking area for the business and turned it into playground. So there is no parking. So the teachers then gobble up all the street parking. And it's not as wide of a street. So when the parents come to drop off and pick up, they actually block the street with 2 lanes there. So pretty much in the morning and pretty much in the afternoon, that's blocked off, and you have to be very careful if you're driving in that area. And the concern with the businesses was that they're required to have a certain number of off-street parking places for their business, and they were concerned that the school was allowed to get a variance for that, I guess, not have any parking off-street. So I'm just sharing the feedback.
I guess I'm looking for the connection.
Well, I'm looking at your slides, and we're talking about environmental issues, and there are, to my way of thinking, I'm looking around there and thinking, well, there's a lot of environmental issues here, but also the traffic is very dangerous, and I don't see that on your slides.
No, this amendment would not address traffic. That is a standard portion of the site plan review process, ensuring connectivity, safe crossings, everything in land use code applicable to a site. So this amendment would not impact parking or connectivity. That would be as per the site plan review requirements.
And so in the future, new facilities would have a better attention to this kind of detail, do you think?
Correct, yep. That is always the hope.
Okay, so so when you're looking at environmental, potential environmental factors, how are you judging that?
Well, that would be done with an environmental buffer study, which would be done by an environmental engineer or a company of such, and they would evaluate that area, for the historical land uses that may have introduced hazards within that 500 feet, current site activities that could be environmental risks, environmental contamination like soil, air, and water contaminations, physical hazards, so any visible contamination that you can visibly see when looking at that property, and then hazardous building materials, evaluation of any existing code violations or like local fire code violations. So those would be what that environmental buffer study would be looking at.
From a public safety standpoint, our fire inspections know what's occurring in businesses. And so that information would be available in terms of the business activities that are adjacent to these locations. The one thing, if I can jump in real quick, I want to draw a distinction between this and the Montessori school. The Montessori school we actually dealt with a few years ago. They located adjacent to one of our local breweries, and we had a lot of conversations around that. That's a charter school that falls under the state, and so our local codes don't apply because it's an entity of the state.
But they have to apply with the city to locate there?
No,
they don't
just
need a permit or anything?
Just like if you look at our schools now with electronic signage, we don't allow electronic signage, but because they're an entity of the state, they can place electronic signage.
Okay. Well, it's maybe a block and a half away that the daycare is positioned as well. So I'm just worried because I know some of the contaminants over there and the cleanups they've had to do in some of the buildings near there. But I have to say the daycare, I think, is in a better position, although the traffic is still a concern there. So thank you, Kristen.
Okay. Are there any other, okay, go ahead. Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but considering I, by definition, was not on council when my predecessor proposed this, I guess I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear on the intention here, which I think, given the council communication in your presentation, Kristen, is to explore the feasibility of expanding the types of zones that daycare could be built in. Not saying we can only build it there, and not saying we should only build it there, and not saying we can't build it anywhere else. It's basically expanding the realm of possibility
That is very
Right.
correct. And also a wish was to streamline the process. So going from conditional uses to administrative process were the goals of this amendment.
Right, and I presume that's like stepping back one layer is in response to the fact that there is an increasing demand for more daycare options. And we saw this very recently with the project the city was working on with the TLC. And so this would basically create more available potential sites for future daycare facilities should the owner, operator, or manager of those facilities want to locate there, and should it clear any permitting processes and review processes, including environmental considerations that would go into that planning and permitting of those sites, correct?
That is correct, Councilmember Popkin.
Cool.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may add, I think one of the issues that was brought up when the conversation originally came forward was when you look at the zones where it's allowed, where there's not a conditional use, that zone, the cost of those locations was also prohibitive for opening daycare. So that was also part of the conversation, is if you opened up more areas, then is there ability to have more affordable options to open up daycares? And obviously this got delayed on the safety side and what we had to figure out.
Right. And zones for primary employment, and what's AG stand for? Is it ag?
It's non-residential agricultural.
Non-residential ag. So obviously those zones vary in how they're used too. You can have primary employment that is one type of use and one that is also a different type of use. One of those might be suitable to be a neighbor to a daycare facility. One of them might not be, right? So again, it's creating more options, not saying we have to build it there. And I think that generally seems to make sense to open up the market to more sites. So thank you for all the work that you went into this.
Okay. And so it does look like we have some council options to either amend or provide recommendations or ask to move it forward or
Correct.
stop.
Yep. What I'd be
So-
looking for tonight would be, like you said,
What-
either move forward with what's proposed, stop, or look towards different item
Okay.
verbiage.
So, go ahead. I can, if, I don't know, a thumbs up, we'll forward it. Move forward as proposed. I agree. Move forward as proposed.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So you have the direction you need. Okay, where are we at now? I lost my paper, my packet. We are now at the legislative, getting slap happy over here. The 2025 legislative bills recommended for city council position. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So I had dinner waiting at home, so I wanted to kind of keep my appetite, but I'm getting very hungry. Yeah, hungry, I get hungry.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring and members of council. Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager. So this is the bill that Councilmember Popkin asked to bring back this week for your official position on it. This is the on-bill repayment program for certain energy-related improvements, House Bill 25-1268. So just to explain what on-bill financing is they are financing options in which a utility or a lender can offer so that people can make improvements to their houses. It's usually like a low interest or a no interest loan that then they can pay back over time on their utility bill. So this program would be voluntary for the city of Longmont because we're a municipally owned utility, but it certainly makes some sense for people to have another way to be able to add energy efficiency measures to their home. So, because it's enabling mechanism to help meet climate and sustainability goals, staff recommends the City Council supports House Bill 25-1268.
So I will hand it over to Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you. I'll be brief here unless there's more significant
Really?
discussion. Yes. This is a really valuable tool. And I want to stress that, one, it's not required that we create it under the state law, but it's a really powerful tool that when utilities have the option to use it, and when there is financial capital available to kind of supplement that, it can go a long way in addressing and helping kind of streamline payment systems. I mean, really what Sandy was describing there means you don't have to take out a separate loan through a separate financial institution, through a separate bank. This can be financed directly through your utility bill. Maybe even if it's with a little interest, you're paying it back in the same mechanism. That also has benefits from an affordability and equity and access standpoint, because suddenly it's not a bank controlling who gets to participate in this. In our case, it's our municipal utility. And so we can set the parameters as to who can participate in that. So from an access to kind of reasonable financing options here for energy efficiency, for renewable energy projects and other electrification and energy upgrades, this is a really powerful tool if done well. And so I really am excited that Colorado is helping. It seems like the state is basically helping enable utilities to do this. And so I would strongly encourage us to support it. It's very much aligned with a lot of the goals we have, and one of the, I think, most valuable tools in increasing access to energy affordability.
So would you like to, yeah, I'll turn it back on again.
I just felt extremely dramatic there.
Yeah,
It was
Make a
more powerful
motion.
to end it there. I'll move that council support, the city council support House Bill 25-1268.
Second.
So that support for House Bill 2025-1268 has been moved by Councilmember Popkin and seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. Can we? Oh, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and vote on that. I do approve, but here we go. Okay, so that passes unanimously minus Mayor Peck and Councilmember McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate the extra information from Councilmember Popkin on this particular bill. I would also like to note that this is your last legislative updated session, because by the time we
I
come
was
back.
going to ask, when does the session
Yeah,
end?
session
But
ends
it's-
sine die May 7th, so.
May 7th,
Yeah,
wow.
so thanks for all your listening ears.
Okay, so we are now at final call, public invited to be heard. So I'm going to recognize John Grunsfeld for waiting this entire time. And then, yeah. Oh, and then do you have the? Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, we're going to get that started. You may begin.
All right. John Grunsfeld, my business is at 229 Airport Road on the Vance Brand Longmont Airport. And I just wanted to give you a quick update. As you know, I've been following electric aircraft for a while. This is, I think, going to be considered the year of the electric aircraft, as there are a number of aircraft that are in the certification process. I show some of them here. The Chinese already have a certificated electric aircraft, of course. Bai Aerospace down at Centennial is working on theirs, and Cessna's got provisional certification of their electric training aircraft. A new entry that I became aware of recently is the Bristol Energic. Bristol has a collaboration with Switzerland, Czech Republic, France, and that's a picture of the electric aircraft. I was down at Space Coast Regional Airport last week. I missed the viewing, but they flew into Space Coast Regional. That on the left is Scott Vongen. He's a Kennedy Space Center engineer that I've worked a great deal with, and one of the Bristol folks. And he had a chance to fly the aircraft. This is a picture of the aircraft, and we'll see if this plays. And so the airplane is running, and hopefully what you notice is it's really quiet. So it doesn't pollute if you charge it with renewable energy, but it doesn't pollute nitric oxides or any of the other things that a gas-powered aircraft would. And it's not quite silent, but it's quite quiet. I contacted the folks. It turns out that one of my astronaut colleagues that I flew with, Claude Nicolier, is involved with the company. And so we're working to bring it to Colorado. They've already agreed to come to Colorado Springs because there's charging infrastructure there, and they have a partner there. I'd like to showcase it at Longmont, Boulder Airport. Boulder's not a heavy lift because they have electric charging infrastructure. with Marcia Martin, I tried to get us energized, if you will, about getting something at Longmont. We don't have it yet. Centennial's already ready. My dream is a front range electric infrastructure so flight schools can move to electric aircraft. I also wanted to address the Colorado Department of Transportation Aviation Division economic impact study. Just to, hopefully you've all seen this. I have copies if you'd like it. Basically it says that all things considered, this was an independent estimate that the state does every 5 years. The Longmont Vance Brand Airport brings $73.6 million of economic value to the city of Longmont. I think that's pretty impressive. However, in the 2020 version, Longmont gets a failing grade on many items. And I just want to say, with the Sundance Festival coming, we should be all hands on deck to try to support all of our transportation, including the airport.
Okay.
And my
you.
recommendation is council should ask for a tiger team of folks to be able to address it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so. Oh, yeah. I know. So is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak? Come on down.
Hello, I'm Ryan Forbes, 2220 Watersong Circle. And as I was hustling to the public comments at the beginning of the meeting on my way over, I heard a lot of people talking about the Innovation Center. And one of the things I didn't hear was that the Innovation Center, you can actually get your associate's degree before you graduate high school, which is, it's many things, but it's not common sense. And that type of thinking, that type of ability to help our community, help our children, and help them succeed and grow, that's one of the many things that helps make Longmont great. And I know right now you're planning on going to executive session with a really tough issue on your plate. And I know it is a big concern within the community. And I think it's not, there's no simple answers, there's no common sense. But it comes down to looking at things that will actually keep Longmont safe and keep the community safe. Unfortunately, people who are willing to violate people's personal space are not concerned about distances. And they're also not going, eventually they're not going to be worried about, like, if they're willing to violate that, they'll find ways around living in certain houses together too. Those generally aren't, like, have not been the proven effective methods. But finding ways to actually get good rehabilitation, finding ways to help with them, work with the community, having community member, like having houses that stay out of the shadows and work with the police department, with the communities, and having those written out and having guidelines in place, those will help so that everyone knows what's going on, they can feel safe, and that there's a process that everyone can turn to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. So we are now at mayor and council comments. Oh, we have another. Oh, come on down. I'm just moving us along.
Sorry, council, not to belabor this, but
No, go ahead.
Nick Torres, representing the American Lung Association tonight. So I'm going to borrow a tactic I heard from one of the previous speakers, and I just tell you a few of the businesses that I really love in Longmont. So shout out to Abuelitas Empanadas, shout out to Carniceria Guanajuato, Blue Corn Tacos, and a new one to the list, Summit Tacos. But also, Happy Earth Day. I heard that mentioned too. Actually, the Lung Association's State of the Air Report is coming out in just like an hour or two. So air pollution has been on my mind a lot. I appreciate the discussion about indoor secondhand smoke. And among the public health groups that are asking you to reconsider those exemptions to the smoke-free air law in Title IX as part of the ordinance moving forward with the changes for on-site consumption for marijuana bars and marijuana hospitality establishments. The science is really clear on outdoor air pollution, particle pollution. What's less known, I think, in terms of indoor air quality, the levels of particle pollution, PM 2.5, that the EPA tracks with the air quality index, can exceed purple or maroon. You might be familiar with the color-coded scale when you check the air quality. Purple maroon days are exceedingly dangerous for human health. The levels of secondhand smoke, the levels of particle pollution indoors when smoking is taking place in whether it's a cigar bar, a casino, a cannabis lounge in other states, the levels have been measured showing PM 2.5, off the charts, well exceeding levels that would be considered dangerous to public health were it in the EPA's air quality index. We've done a really good job, I think, of addressing public perceptions of smoking, of tobacco smoking. I think the public perceptions haven't caught up on marijuana smoking, unfortunately. I would commend Longmont's efforts over the years, always strengthening the smoke-free smoke-free air law here locally, adding vaping, adding the Main Street corridor to these areas that are smoke-free in Longmont. I think that's really great for the community. As the city considers moving forward with marijuana hospitality establishments, it would just really ask you to reconsider that exemption. I think it goes in the wrong direction for public health and the wrong direction for perceptions of smoking. And I think, there's plenty of other options for the types of cannabis, THC infused oils and things to be applied.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other members from the public? Come on down. Okay.
Susie, members of council. Paul Tiger, I was here in 2022 with a group of people who tried to get a change in Longmont Fair Campaign Practices Act. We got a lot of pushback about that. It became drama about a post office box, but that's not what it was about. If you haven't seen an email from me, you'll probably see one in the next few hours. And I'm going to come back here with this same group of people, maybe some more, and try and get that change. This law has been adopted by all of the cities surrounding us, but not us, because politicians in Longmont can be bought. That's how it goes. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Be looking forward to your email. Thank you. Okay, so now we are at mayor and council comments. Are there any comments from council? Oh, not you. No. Just kidding. Okay, yeah, you commented.
Well, as a point of order, according to our chart, no, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say very briefly that I appreciate the mayor pro tem earlier and the council extending me a little bit of grace for the point of information that was unorthodox earlier. I hope that the members of the public and council appreciated that, particularly at the moment. I could have done it now, and I was planning to do it now if it hadn't come up. But the majority of the public that was in attendance would not have been present. So while I don't want to assume that people aren't staying up late watching us and live streaming this, I think it was hopefully more constructive and productive to do it then. So thank you.
Yeah. And that's why I made it was like it was a full house, and I know people weren't going to wait. Okay, any other comments? Okay. Well, thank you. Let's go ahead and go to city manager remarks.
No comments, Mayor,
No
council.
comments. Okay, city attorney remarks?
No comments, Mayor.
Okay, so may I have a motion to adjourn? Now you don't want to talk?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
So the motion was made by Councilmember Christ. Sorry, I heard Popkin first, so it's going to Popkin. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Okay, opposed? Good night. Good night, yes. We are adjourned.